CPCU Champion Hour number 7, we are interviewing the amazing CPCU Society President Sharon Koches this evening, talking all things CPCU. So here we go.
Here we go.
We're talking about a lot of these things. We're talking about how to mentor.
File that under only the best decisions are made after midnight.
Right. That's right.
Your network is your net worth. Connect with someone.
Seeing the disappointment in Heather's face when I hit the, only the best choices are made after midnight line is the best part of that intro for me. She if someone had ever audibly rolled their eyes, it was Heather in that moment.
I'm just always blown away by the beard evolution. So I kind of just get distracted on the various levels of yeah.
Evolution, de-evolution. It's been a whole spectrum, Precious. It's like I tried every stop along the way. I'm getting to my ZZ Top phase right now is what I'm getting to. So we're trying that one out for the moment. I definitely can't play guitar like any of the dudes in ZZ Top, unfortunately. So might have to fix that one. But so anyone who is unfamiliar with this program, or if you are returning, thank you very much for coming back. This is the CPCU Champion Hour. We are a production of the CPCU Society, as well as the institutes and the volunteers of the CPCU Society. Breaking news. I'm not stealing Heather's segment or anything like that, but breaking news. We have breached the 100 subscriber level on the CPCU Society YouTube channel. What? Cool. So this is a reminder too, if you are not currently subscribed, please subscribe to the Institute CPCU Society channel. And obviously, while you're here, throw this video a like and share it out there and help us, get some of this information out to amazing insurance people like yourselves to help them and also bring them into the family and, make them part of this conversation. And I am also going to share something else really quickly here. This is like the most long-winded intro ever. If you are not currently subscribed to the CPCU Society Twitter page or Twitter account, please do so as well. It's at CPCU Society. A lot of announcements come out there. Like the best ones are obviously when we have a show that's dropping and premiering on Thursday afternoons at noon Eastern. But there are also other great announcements that have to do with news articles as well as insights coming out. Look at that. Our beautiful faces up on the top of the queue there, as well as webinars, interest stories, and all kinds of other things. So that was a lot. I think I lost half the audience right now. All right. I would say that our icebreaker should be like favorite fast food items, but I know that the sore spot for Heather right now, after having gone through some a little bit of an illness spat, having picked up some fast food recently. I will here is we already know Precious likes pumpkin spice. I mean, she's like if there was a Spice Girl named Pumpkin Spice, like it would be Precious. I just lost the millennial half of our audience. Fantastic. So for an icebreaker, what is your favorite beverage of choice? If it's not pumpkin spice or pumpkin spice latte or whatever, just all year round, what is your favorite beverage of choice? I'll go with you, Heather, when you're not nursing some, health issues and drinking tea like it's going out of style.
Well, let me think, Matt. I mean, I'm a huge wine fan, so a glass
Yes.
of wine has got to be probably at the top of the list. But I would say beverage of choice outside of that. I'm a huge ginger ale fan right now for sure. But I absolutely love ginger ale. Even like that's what I always get on my airplane rides whenever I go anywhere. Ginger ale, love it.
Are you a name brand ginger ale gal, or are you non-discriminating? You'll even
I am
drink
a non-discriminating, but it's mostly Canada Dry.
Yeah. Thank you, Canada Dry, but we don't receive any money from them. So, make your own choices in terms of what ginger ale you do purchase. All right, Precious, what's your favorite go-to beverage?
Wow. I was thinking about that as she was giving that answer. And again, the seasonal buff in me for this time of year, since I can't plug, pumpkin spice right now, is got to be the cranberry things that come out in the fall. And so they usually have a cranberry ginger ale. There's like a cranberry Sprite, so that splash of cranberry, that's kind of, part of the whole winter vibe. Now, I'm just a big cranberry fan anyway. But yeah, so that's kind of my go-to. Now, in moderation now, I do love, again, no plugs for a specific brand, but they have all sorts of the like pre-mixed, variety that are on the shelf. So there's like cran mango, cran pineapple. And so it's more than just a mixer for your, adult beverage. You can drink it. Right?
Good for your kidneys too.
Not great before a flight though. Yeah. So
I feel seen right now, Precious. I feel so seen right now. I would have to say, much to many people's probably surprise, my favorite drink is not an adult beverage. It is, I prefer, so I used to be like, I'm a big coffee drinker. And so when I'm home, I typically, just have a cup of coffee pretty much like 2-3 times a day. It's really, being home with like COVID and work from home and everything has made my caffeine consumption go through the roof. But when I'm on the go, my favorite drink is an iced double shot of espresso. It is like the, punch you in the face dose of caffeine that you need when it's like, first thing in the morning, the afternoon, you're dragging. The ice takes a little bit of the bite out of the espresso. So it's just like one of those things. And the best part about it is, and I'm not going to mention the retailer because, again, we don't get paid or anything like that. But if you go to a very popular coffee place and get an iced doppio, which is basically 2 shots of espresso over ice, it's like $2 as opposed to like $4, $5, $6 for the other handcrafted beverages that you could order from that establishment. So just some, drink for thought, so to speak, for everyone out there in insurance land. All right. With that, we have an awesome guest, as Heather so aptly kicked us off at the top of the episode. We are talking with Sharon Koches, who's the CPCU Society president. I don't want to keep her waiting too long. We have one segment this week. We don't have any trivia, but Heather does have something with the Insurance News Minute.
Well, it's that time of year. Everyone's adding up the expenses for the year to try to make a good calculation on everything. And in our industry, that is incredibly important to what we do. And of course, extreme weather events in 2021 have not been in short supply. Including a deep winter freeze, severe thunderstorms, floods, heat waves, major hurricanes, wildfires. Those losses and those catastrophic losses this year are resulting in an estimated $105 billion paid out. This is according to a new news report from the Swiss Re Institute. Now, this news report is from today. This doesn't take into account the catastrophic event that just happened with the tornadoes that swept through the Midwestern part of the United States this past week. And this is obviously, this number is going to grow. It's been a tough year for natural disasters, and this is what our industry is all about, though, is being there for people in some of the toughest times in their life. But the numbers are continuing to rise. But as of today, 105 billion from Swiss Re Institute is the reported catastrophic loss for this year.
So let me get Precious's take on that real quick. What does that number just kind of make you think, Precious?
So there's always a really disappointing ratio of the number of losses, paid versus sustained. And, when you hear a number like that, that's the first thing that kind of jumps out at me. How much more of that, went uninsured, that we will never be able to fully capture. And it is a reminder that what we do, our commodity is really unique in that we undergird society at large. Without insurance coverage, communities can't rebuild, businesses don't rebound, households, struggle to recover. And so, the gravity of that doesn't escape us. But yeah, when I hear that number, I just think that's just, a piece of the tip of the iceberg to, what really happened. And so that should be an eye opener. We always talk about things statistically, 1 in 100-year storm. We've had so many like 1 in 100 things to happen here. It's just unbelievable.
We're due for like just a quiet year. I'm like, not knock on wood, like we are due for a quiet year somewhere along the way. But you raise a huge point, Precious. If you think of civilizations, how they grow economically, I'm going to totally nerd out right now. Think of like a stool with 3 legs, right? And so those 3 legs, I believe, are typically currency, right? Something to be able to judge value with, relative value. Credit, the ability to lend out some value in order for people to invest and grow. And then the 3rd leg helps make sure that the other 2 don't fall over, right? And that's the insurance backing that comes with that, pooling the risk of all of those investments that are made to help develop society and help develop, cultures throughout time. And so this number is like, again, most people don't necessarily can't conceptualize how big a number like that is, but truthfully, at the end of the day, it is just a gargantuan amount of losses. And spoken like a true broker, Precious, that was the first place I went. I was like, okay, yeah, what was the actual damage total, right? And in fact, after Hurricane Harvey, that was my first visceral response was, a lot of people talked about the insured flood losses. And then immediately the number that, came to the forefront for me was that like 40+% of those flood losses in Texas were in X-rated zones. And almost guaranteed most of those people didn't have flood insurance because, real estate agents, I'm sorry if you are a real estate agent, but you all are infamous for this one. Oh, your house isn't in a flood zone. Yes, it is. It might be in an X, but it's in a flood zone. Right. But so, yeah, that was definitely something that jumped out at me. So that is a huge, huge number and something that we are sure to discuss with our special guest for this episode. So did you guys want to add anything more before I bring Sharon on?
I would just say our thoughts are obviously with everyone who's dealing with the massive storm event. I personally had a friend who lived in Mayfield, Kentucky, and my first instinct was I need to find her. I need to reach out to her and make sure she's okay. And fortunately, she's okay. No severe damages at her house, but she was like a 2-mile block off of the war zone that you're seeing in Mayfield, Kentucky right now. So. She does have damage, but it's not awful, but it's just, that brings it all home for you. And it brought me back to those days when I worked storm events like that, just, what people go through and how the industry is there for people at those really, really tough times in their lives where everything is gone and don't know what to do next, So.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, let me bring on Sharon as our CPCU champion profile this week. Sharon, thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us. Before we get rolling, in terms of that number, 100 billion plus in cat losses, not counting the recent tornadoes, what's your visceral response to that? Like, what does that make you think about?
The industry enjoyed such accumulated capital over a period of time. We were in that soft market. And then 2019, we started to see that turn. 2020, there was over 200 billion in natural catastrophic losses for the industry. Again, thinking about what was insured and what wasn't insured. And, the sad thing is, I think this year we're going to go over that because of the severe catastrophe in the Midwest this year. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, I pray for those people in the Midwest who have seen such devastation. I think we've taken back. The hurricane season wasn't that bad, but the wildfires were worse. The tornadoes were worse. And I really think that this is just a continuous pattern that we're going to see. And we're going to continue in that hard market as we see these type of catastrophic losses. And hopefully, as you all were talking about, people understand why we do what we do, why we sell insurance to protect their assets. It's really a sad situation. So my heart goes out to everyone that's had damage and injury and fatality in this scenario. I mean, it really is just a sad situation.
Yeah. And the I think maybe the good news is, if there is any kind of silver lining, is that there's not necessarily something that's specifically competing with that right now. So it does shine a light on the issues that are happening in Kentucky and Arkansas and that area that get hit by the tornadoes. So we don't have a specific charity that we work with that we are going to highlight or anything like that. But if you can help out, like we said, a lot of insurance adjusters are there, paying for damages and helping families and showing what insurance is supposed to be there for. Right. There is a lot of uninsured loss as well. And so a lot of those folks need immediate need or long-term need. So if you are paying attention to that situation, if you are in a place to give, definitely go out there and Google. There are a number of different organizations. I won't name any specific ones because we don't directly work with them, but definitely look into making that part of your holiday giving, hopefully to help those folks out. And I mean, talk of the crappy timing of it all, right? Like right before the holidays and Christmas and New Year's and everything like that. Just kind of stinks to have to deal with that in your life, especially if you are one of the folks that had a large amount of loss in those events. So, all right, turning the page. Sharon, you are the CPCU president. We get a bunch of people that are society members and also people from the insurance industry that might not be part of the society just yet watching the show. So I want to give you 30 seconds to a minute, just elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do?
Well, my goal this year is CPCU Society president and chair of the Leadership Council. And I just want to say that I'm in touch with the members. I want to hear from the members. This is about succession in our industry. This is about improving ourselves, improving our organizations, and networking with people, because I'm inspired and I learn from every single member, every conversation that I have, and even and non-members as well. I had an exciting call today. I had a young lady called and said, I just passed one of my exams. I just had to give you a call and tell you that. And I get excited when I hear that, because they're investing in themselves and they're investing in their companies when they do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to pass the torch after I ask this first question. I'll give Heather the next one, but you raise a very interesting point. You are extremely accessible as far as being, and you are not alone in that ability to be accessible to the members of the society. And I think that's somewhat rare when it comes to a number of these extremely large professional associations. Where do you think that comes from, either from you personally or just as an organization? Like I said, you're not the first. I mean, a lot of presidents of the society have come before you, have also made themselves extremely accessible. Where does that really kind of come from for you, or maybe in terms of the society culture as a whole?
So I think it comes from both. I think as a society's as the culture of the society, we want to be accessible to our members. That's part of what we do. We are here for the members, and we have to be open to conversations, whether we agree with each other or agree to disagree. We need to have feedback and conversations. So I think it comes down to culture, but I also feel like for me, that personal touch is so important. I've belonged to organizations throughout my career where it's just even difficult to get in touch with someone, let alone really have some good valued discussions. So I think it's a combination of both. And I think that you're going to continue to see the collaboration with society members, with chapters and interest groups and leadership, and just really working together to take the society to the next level.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Go ahead, Heather.
So, Sharon, obviously membership's going to be different. And, there's been really interesting responses to that. It goes back and forth. I will say I totally appreciate your accessibility about that particular issue, because it is 100% an issue that I know sits in some people's craw a little different. It's hard to wrap your head around the society and what does the designation mean now and all of those things. But my question really goes to, how can chapters and leaders and volunteers within the society best reach these new options within the membership group? We've got students, we've got the academic area, we've got pathways, we've got people who we really want you to get on the path to your CPCU designation. What is your advice to all of us and all our chapter leaders out there and all of our interest group leaders out there, is how we can best do that?
So I think there's a handful of things, but first I want to say that the society has invested money to update the website so that we can collect the data that we need to really be able to move this forward. In addition, more collaboration with the institutes to really reach out and say the CPCU Society is now open to insurance professionals, because we want to be there to support you and mentor you and coach you and show you the importance of networking and resources within the society. And so that's one thing. I think gathering that data is so critical, and we really have not done a great job in the past at that, because our data collection was very antiquated. So we have invested time and money into that. We're going to be working with the institutes to get additional data that we can get out to the chapters, to the interest groups. In addition, I think that the chapters, Jill had a saying that, to bring one, right? Each person bring one. And I think going back to the grassroots of the chapters, because I see the chapters as really being our grassroots. And so if the chapters can get people to bring one person in, even as a guest, and I know that most of the chapters have always encouraged others outside of the society, but now you have a greater opportunity, because now they can get more involved in the committees. Now they can join. Now they can become part of the resources. And I think it's going to be a combination of things. We're going to be working together. Jen Polachek at the Society has some assistance now. We're going to be working with the chapters more to help them engage those outside of the CPCU designation. I think mentoring and coaching. We're going to be bringing back the champions, right? We've used to have the champions, the connection visits. We're going to be working really hard to move those forward this year. It's been an odd couple of years. I mean, it's just been a really strange couple of years. everyone has done a phenomenal job to keep their chapters and their members together and encourage people back into the fold virtually. I even had the opportunity in the last 2 months to attend 2 in-person I-days or meetings. So I'm excited about that. But I really think that as we work together, start bringing some of the things back like connections and champions and really helping the chapters move this forward.
What you got, Precious?
So I know even before the latest changes with membership, there was this push to really rebrand even the meetings that we have. We got away from just calling them annual meeting and leadership summit. And the focus on that was to make these industry events, not just CPCU events. Now, granted, with the pandemic, we haven't had the opportunity to get together for what used to be leadership summit. I know that there was a little bit of concern with Leadership Summit always has had a different tone. It was really where chapter leaders came together and we shared best practices and really talked about kind of in-house issues, if you will. Now that we've opened up membership and we've rebranded our gatherings, what can you share? Like, what is that experience going to be? Are we still going to have the opportunity to, kind of let iron sharpen iron when it comes to the volunteers within the society when we get together for the name escapes me now. The spring meeting. What are we calling this now?
I think it's still the Leadership Summit. I mean,
okay.
But I will say to you that as we talked to our members and as we received feedback, there was more of a need for leadership skills training, and not just for chapter leaders, but for anyone who really wanted to help build their skills. And that's going to in turn help the chapters as well, right? If you start building your skills and you start feeling more confident, and thank you, Heather Scale, and if you start feeling more involved, it's going to enhance the chapters. So as we look at Scale for April, what's going to happen is we're doing 2 sections of it. We're doing leadership skills. So we are working with a university on that. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting this week. We were talking about that. I don't have any topics or agenda yet that we can share, but we are bringing in another university as we did last year. Last year was virtual. But then we're also going to have, on another day, we're going to have those chapter leadership skills so that people don't have to choose, well, I really wanted to go to the chapter leadership, but I also wanted to attend one of these others. And so we're going to have different days for different areas of leadership. And I'm really excited about that. We want to make sure that people understand that the society is about helping people build their leadership skills. And it's so that they can gain personal confidence, personal experience, and professionalism. And then they can take that back to the organization. So there's value in the organization for this. And there's also value for the chapters and our succession planning in the chapters.
All right. So I love that because Leadership Summit was always it always felt more intimate to me. It was always, and it always, I felt it was more impactful from the standpoint of kind of like on the ground tools and techniques, if that makes sense, versus Into Risk, which is in a lot of cases, these kind of like larger scale conversations that are being had about, the industry and trends and things like that. Leadership Summit was always very much, kind of targeted. It was very, very kind of like laser focused in practice, which is what I absolutely loved. And it was typically a smaller crowd. So, it was even easier to bump into people multiple times throughout the event, which was fantastic. So let me ask you kind of more about like your role as the CPCU president. Coming into that role, you had some incredible challenges that you faced. What was one thing that you felt was kind of like the biggest challenge that you had to overcome? And then what was one thing that really kind of you felt was like that King Arthur's sword, so to speak, Excalibur, that you were going to be able to bring to the table and, slay the dragon, so to speak?
Well, I don't think I've quite slain the dragon, but I'm still working on that.
It's on your to-do list.
There are a handful of things. So, certainly we went into this year not knowing what availability was for on-site, how we were going to reach out. I mean, poor Tom Woods, who did everything he could to keep his year moving forward with virtual sessions. He didn't really have as much opportunity as I did because we started to open up and chapters got comfortable. But one of the things that I said was important from my perspective was collaboration, communication, and transparency. We need to be out there. We need to be having conversations. We need to be listening. And, it's one of those things where sometimes that makes people uncomfortable. Right. And I'm about, and the Leadership Council will laugh when they hear this, I'm about the elephant in the room. Stop hiding the elephant and let's all look at the elephant and address the elephant, right? And so it was important from my perspective to start these town halls, to start it, and not to have it where you're just listening to a talking head tell you what we're about. We can talk about what's being updated, talk about what we're working on, and then we need to put a piece of tape over our mouths and listen and answer questions, and not just questions that we're comfortable answering, but the questions that came up in the chat. Okay. I don't have all the answers. None of us have all the answers, but if we're listening and we can talk about how we are viewing these things and the feedback that we're receiving, and continue to network and continue to get our members talking about this is working, this isn't working, how can we make these changes and see all of the members and our chapters and interest groups in the society as a whole move forward and succeed. That to me was the critical piece going into this year. And then, of course, we went into this year with no executive director. So we had no executive director until the middle of April. And so poor CPCU Society staff had to talk to me on a regular basis, right? And so, it was a challenge. We were short of staff. No executive director, but we had other staff that were no longer there. And so the society staff carried a heavy burden going into 2021. And now I look at the success that they've achieved, working with the members, right? The things that we've been able to accomplish. Now, not everybody's going to agree. I had a conversation, one of our staff got a call. Someone was a little upset with our expansion. And they said, you always say you're available to talk. I said, I'm happy to call him. I can't give him all the answers he wants, but I'm happy to have a conversation and talk about the why, talk about how we see things, how we got to this point and made these decisions. But I think that having Leadership Council out there, being transparent, being, making the members feel like they have the personal connection to Leadership Council. And for me, I think that was the key, and that was the reason to move forward with these town halls.
And I have to give you credit. Your commitment to transparency and being able to talk about things that a lot of people had avoided in the past also gave you the ability to, for lack of a better analogy, slay some sacred cows that potentially were holding the society back. And there are certain things, or not necessarily holding it back, but holding it from being able to be that, the next iteration of it, like what it needed to evolve to be, or what it needed to transition to be competitive in the current day. And so I give you credit for that, because even to this day, there's still an active thread on Interact talking about, the membership expansion and kind of like what that means as far as, the value of a society membership versus the other levels, which is fantastic because it also gives a lot of people the ability to find out and see what they're about and understand, as opposed to just some, marketing material that gets thrown out and it's like, oh, okay, well, now we have 5 levels. So, deal with it. Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that sometimes people just have to get some emotions out, right? Like they just gotta like blah, right? Like, and once it gets out, they're good. Like, it's okay.
Well, and I also want to say, going into this with new leadership council members going into 2021, and of course, many of you may know that the president gets to appoint one person for a year for leadership council. My comment was, please don't come on board thinking I want you to agree with everything I say. I'm bringing you on board because I value your opinion. And I will tell you that we had some pretty healthy, passionate discussions in leadership council meetings, in our strategic planning meeting. And to me, that meant that we really represented our membership. If you have a group that is just going to agree on everything, you're not representing your membership. And so I'll tell you, we had some healthy discussions, and I was excited about that because that was important. That was important to bring diverse thought into the society leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say, leading in times of change are never the easiest times to lead. Why? Because you're going to have a camp of people who might be there and might be okay with it. You're going to have a camp of people who are firmly in the middle. And then you're going to have some people who are very much, I don't agree with this and I'm never going to agree with this. And I'm going to stick my feet into the ground, and I so appreciate, Sharon, that you have reached across all of those people on the change spectrum. I'm pulling out my change management hat here. and you've done your very level best to reach them, to let them know that that you want to hear them and you want to make sure that their thoughts about it are valued. And that's the number one way to get buy-in from people in volunteer organizations, is they want to know they're valued to be a part of something that is bigger and greater than themselves. And the society is an old organization. We all got to face it. It's more than 77
years old.
77 years old now. 77-year-old organizations don't move quickly, but the rapid pace at which you have navigated all of the changes that the society has decided upon. But what I will say, my question mainly goes to that, is, how have you really plowed through and navigated all of that rapid fire change? And what is your suggestion to those who are dealing with maybe some pretty major changes, even in their own chapters or in their own interest groups? What's the best way that they can approach that?
So first I'll say I've covered all the gray. Okay, that's come up this year. It's not easy. It's not easy. The one thing is, we can't take it personally. I do take it personally when someone says you only respond to someone who agrees with you, which I totally disagree with. And I was kind of taken aback when that was said. But I want you to know that we've got to not take it personally. We have to try and address the concerns that are out there and to continue to provide the information. Now, I think that we have done a very good job with communication, and I'm sorry for those who their emails go into their junk file, their spam file, and they don't get to see some of the things that have come up. But we have tried to communicate all of the information out there. And, and again, that's the reason for the town halls as well, so that we want to put ourselves out there, talk about it, and not just send an email out and say, hey, here's what we're doing and here's why, but really put ourselves out there and be able to offer our reasoning, offer all of the work that we've done to get to this point, because they aren't easy decisions. right? I mean, if we don't, what's the definition of insanity? Continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. If we don't make any changes, the society will not move forward. And, things are changing. When I'm a boomer, okay? I got into the industry at age 18. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but I am a boomer, okay? But I want to say that the career options back when I joined the industry versus the career options today are totally different. The skill set when I joined the industry is very different than someone joining the industry today. The resources that are out there is very different today, much more broad, so much more resources that people can attach to and find, and the networking, totally different. And so how do you continue to offer the same benefits, continue to look at what we do as the only way to do it? If we just do that, where's our succession plan? Who are those emerging leaders that are going to show up? They're not going to be around because they're going to look at us and say, oh, okay, that's an old organization, right? I mean, we have to start thinking differently as an organization. And I think we've made the effort to do that. I want to say the chapters, right? I know some of the chapters have a difficult time bringing in new leaders. And so I think that we have to, as chapters, and most chapters do a good job, but reach out to the new designees and have some of the committee leaders and the chapter leaders and the IG leaders bring these young folks under their wing and show them and teach them, here are things that can help you to gain those leadership skills, to be part of the future as an emerging leader. Now, I'll also say to you, because I do a lot with generational issues, be mindful when we do that. Be mindful how we do it, because the younger generation wants a plan. I want to know, here I am, and here's where I want to be. And what I want from you is tell me how I can get there and how you can help me get there and put me on a path. And so we have to look at this younger generation different and start thinking about the generations that come after millennials, come after Zs. How different is that going to be? Look at the technology difference between now. When I first came in the industry, everything was manual. Okay. I am one of those underwriters who manually rated large accounts. Okay. And it's kind of like, how many miles did I have to walk to school? Right. What your parents used to say. But I mean, it's different, and it's, society moves much quicker now. So what used to be this slow path is no longer. And, you can't expect that employees are going to stay 30, 40 years anymore. But here's the thing. If we can help them grow, help them learn, help them gain knowledge, it's going to help the organization. And they're going to talk about the positives of the organization and the investment that was made. It's okay that they move on and share that knowledge and expertise somewhere else, as long as they help bring other people into the fold. And I think the chapters have to think the same way.
So I love that outlook, and that ties right into the question that I have for you. So, one of the things that I'm passionate about, in addition to insurance, is DEI. Right. Okay. So we've diversified the ability, the purpose in opening this up is to diversify our member base.
Right.
Right. The equity piece of it. And I think this is where my question is, in terms of if it's been contemplated rolling out some sort of toolkit to help the chapters really navigate this space. Because, for example, they're paid members, so they're welcome to serve in all capacities. So they can sit on our boards. They can, those who are not CPCUs is what I'm addressing specifically. Okay. There are certain things that I think of it from, the position of maybe one of these other types of members. So again, when we're in person, and inevitably we get to that place where all CPCUs, we do what? We stand for the pledge. Right. So there's automatically going to be kind of this pointing out who is and who's not in this crowd, where in the past, the vast majority of us were CPCUs in the room. So my question to you are, what are some of the support tools that are going to be made available on a chapter level specifically, in terms of, now that we've diversified it and we've established the equity position, now the inclusion piece? How do we make all of these different pieces feel welcome and feel heard and seen? And I think about it from a sales standpoint, as an agent broker, right, where we are always very mindful of what that customer experience ought to feel like. This particular customer is price sensitive. This particular customer understands value. And so when we think about, now we've got 5 different types of ways that someone can be a member, have we really done a study on like what their experience, what kind of experience that they would be looking for? And then again, the question is, what sort of support is going to be made available so that we, across the board, are tapping into this and understand, how do we bring them in, plug them in, and make it a positive experience for everyone on the chapter level?
So I don't have all the answers for you, Precious. I can say to you that, yes, we are working on a toolkit for the chapters. We absolutely are. We are also working on how best to bring them into the fold. I think part of it is to share experiences, right? And to share what value the chapter brings, the networking piece, the knowledge piece, the leadership skills piece. I don't have all the tactics at this point. I know that one of the key things for us, because as I said earlier, Jen works on the chapters, and she's had a pretty full plate, and we've just gotten her assistance so that she can focus more on some of the things that you're talking about. We certainly are, this year we've spent our virtual chapter leadership pieces on key areas to help the chapter. We're going to continue that going into the new year. We're going to do the leadership skills, the chapter leadership skills in the leadership summit in April. And I know we're going to record some of that. And then we're going to focus on the chapters as far as we're talking about going back to some regional meetings. But what we talked about doing was doing some virtual meetings, virtual regional meetings, so that more chapter leaders can attend, whether they're current chapter leaders or they're considering being a chapter leader, so that they can gather some additional knowledge and experience. And, we can focus on what those key areas are. Our goal is to focus on what the chapters need in order to support this. I just don't have the list of tactics that we're getting into at this point.
So one more follow-up question, and I know I gotta pass the rotation here. Thinking about all of these different types of professionals, academics, and everyone who is being invited to the party, one of the things that has always been a stickler is our due structure and the timing of it. So I look at even like third party, like for example, Amazon. I'll pick on Amazon, and they have a paid in full model for like Prime, and then they also have like a monthly, right? So because they recognize that, when we're moving past your prototypical CPCU, most of us typically are, I don't want to maybe say mid-career, maybe I'm overgeneralizing us a little bit. A huge percentage of us may have employer support. And so that annual bill, lump sum is doable. But when I think about a student, when I think about, some of these other types of individuals that we're bringing in, do we still have to stick to this once a year lump sum model? Is that flexible enough to really draw the interest of these various types of individuals we're trying to get to buy in and to join?
So let me say this from a student standpoint. If you're a member of GIS, it's free. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is nothing. From a student outside of GIS, I want to say it's $20. I don't think that's changed, but very, very doable. As far as the rest of it, a lot of it comes down to having the resources to do it. As far as the website, Okay. And as far as that support. So I know that that is something that's being discussed. I don't know at this point where that stands. One of the other areas that kind of goes along with that is our international members, and the fact that, we have insurance professionals throughout the world, and the culture, the ability to pay with that exchange is very difficult. And so, we want to be able to reach out and help people throughout the industry. So that is something that is being looked at as well. So we are very conscious of some of these issues that are going on, and we're trying to prioritize. I will say, from an international level, we do have a task force that was just set up for the international piece. I know the other piece has been brought up, and we've been talking about websites and how we can do that. So I don't know what the stance is yet at this point, but even if we could do quarterly, I mean, that would be very helpful. But the other thing I will say is that I know Chris has a big focus on getting back to the corporate support, right? This last couple of years, corporate support organizations have been struggling with brick and mortar versus remote and everything else. And while we've continued to talk about it, we were trying to move everything else forward. And I know one of the things Chris is going to be working on this year for 2022 is corporate support again. And part of that is the fact that a lot of the C-suite in the insurance industry are not insurance people. And so they don't understand the importance of designations. I was at a chapter meeting doing a conferment, and one of the last week, and one of the new CPCUs said, look, the folks who run my company, they know nothing about insurance. And he said, luckily, my boss understands. I've explained to him the importance of CPCU and the importance to support it, but they are not insurance people. And so that's a big change. So even when we go back to, what has changed in order for us to respond to change, it's about look at who's running the organizations these days. And so we have a bigger job there to make sure that they understand the importance of what we all do.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's, again, that's reflective of your candor, right? I love that Sharon didn't just lay some line on you and sprinkle some, corporate jargon fairy dust and be like, oh, well, yeah, we got this thing, we got the other thing. I think it also highlights the fact that, the ball started rolling and your job was to really kind of push it further down the road. And there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Which I think is fantastic, because I think for the first time in a while, the society also has this feel of some succession planning and some consistency in terms of, what's going to be done in the future. There is some understanding of what's going to continue to be worked on. And, the intent is to get these projects that are currently underway to the finish line. And we also kind of know what the future looks like. Not exactly, but we do have a little bit of a roadmap, which is really reassuring. All right. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at not necessarily just Sharon, also at Heather and Precious. And I'm going to give you a second. I got a little segue so you can think about it. So our three get to know you questions. All right, Heather and Precious, you guys get to pick which one you want to ask Sharon. All right. And I'll take the third one, whichever is the outlier. I'll take the last one. And while you're thinking about which one you want to ask her, I am just going to highlight really quickly a fantastic reason why you should subscribe to this channel. Wow, awful production value. I'm going to throw the banner up now. A perfect reason why you should like this video and subscribe to the channel is we have some awesome guests coming up in the future. So we have, we have Mike K coming on to talk about New Year's resolutions. That's going to be a good one. We have the most interesting man in insurance, if that's still his nickname, Rob Galbraith. I don't know. I know it's I know that's one of his nicknames. We might have to have like a pro wrestler intro done for him with all of his different nicknames. We got a couple of folks that wrote an adjuster's handbook or adjusters how to be a better adjuster book. We got John Bachman and what's Stanley's first name, Heather? Chris Stanley. That's right. So Chris Stanley and John Bachman coming up. We got Abby Clow talking about. We're gonna have a couple of different topics we can talk to her about, as well as to check in on her, how her book distribution and launch is going. I also got tentative confirmation that Ryan Hanley is going to set up a date with us. So that's nice. Awesome. Formerly of Trusted Choice and now of Rogue Risk. He started his own insurance agency, which is very much built in this like new techie direct to consumer kind of model world that we're in. And so it's going to be really fun to talk to him. And sticking on the CPCU Society bandwagon, we will have Spencer and Chris, the executive director and the incoming CPCU Society president, Chris Hampshire, will join us to talk about what the future looks like. So Sharon did an amazing job of, like I said, moving the ball forward. And then we're going to have Spencer and Chris talk about, what does the next 12 months plus look like in the society, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. All right. I've given you enough time to think about it. I will give, since I kicked it off with Heather, I'm going to give you, Precious, first bite at the apple here. Which of our 3 get to know you questions would you like to ask to Sharon?
Miss Sharon, so thank you again so much for all that you've done and just with the grace that you've been able to execute it. So I wanted to say that first and foremost. So my question for you is, when you think about your journey as a professional, as a CPCU, is there anyone that has been a personal champion for you that you want to acknowledge, today on this platform that's really supported you, with your involvement with the society?
So that's a tough question because I have been so fortunate. First of all, I want to say one of my old bosses, Chuck Muselli from Selective Insurance Company, had just really was such a support throughout my career and with CPCU. Although when I came in the door there, I already had my CPCU, but we were able to champion and move things forward. So he was just a huge part of my career in CPCU. Wow, as far as CPCU, there are just so many people. I'm going to just say that people like Rachel Bannister, like Tracy at a DJ. I finally learned how to say your name correctly. And each of you, just for the passion that you bring to this and the support to show people the importance of this. Brian Savko, who is the one who actually sat me down and say, why are you not filling an application out for Leadership Council? And I said, well, I'm not sure I have what it takes. And so Brian was the one that helped me move this forward. There are people at the Institute. So every member that I have met has inspired me and taught me something. And so I am very grateful and very fortunate from that aspect.
All right, Heather.
Well, I will say we started out this show talking about catastrophes, Sharon, and your presidency has been anything but a catastrophe, but you have navigated a lot of really crazy things with resiliency. So you demonstrated that spirit that comes out after things get a little crazy and get a little hairy and you got to figure out how to move in a different world. So for that, I totally appreciate everything that you've done as our president. But my question for you is, if a movie was made of your life, what would the genre be and who would star as Sharon?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. All right, I'm gonna pick one of my favorite actresses, Sandra Bullock. And
she's like a favorite of the show. We need to have, if anyone knows Sandra Bullock, we have to have Sandra Bullock on because she needs to do an insurance movie. I'll tell you that much.
There you go. Geez, for me, it's almost chaos, right? I mean, just every day is a different day and it's chaos. So I don't know. I don't know.
Apocalyptic future.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's one of those. What is the future going to be? I'm not quite sure, but I'm just going to keep moving forward. Right. That's a hard question for me.
I can definitely see Sharon. I don't know if there's any Walking Dead fans here or in the audience, but I can definitely see Sharon as like a Carol type character, like, just does what she needs to in order, and like the quiet cool, right? Like everyone kind of like doesn't necessarily peg you as a badass, but really you're a badass. Like, I could definitely see that character. Yeah, most definitely.
Well, I have to admit, Matt, we talk a lot in some of the sessions on emotional intelligence. I do bottom out now and again. You do bottom out, and as much as you make an effort, there are just some days.
Yeah.
I have to admit that. I mean, come on.
Well, the good news is too that like you're mostly or at least partly a Jersey girl, so that also gives you some resiliency if it did come down to an apocalyptic environment. Now you don't necessarily, you didn't grow up knowing how to pump your own gas, but or did you?
Actually, I did.
Oh, there you go.
I have to tell you, Matt, I grew up my father's son and learned to hunt and fish with my dad. My 12th birthday present was a single barrel shotgun to go hunting. And we did have gas tanks, so we did pump our own gas. So, and I will say that my Jersey girl does occasionally still come out on it, it does.
Dude, I'm telling you, if the apocalypse hits tomorrow, I'm going to Sharon's house. All right. I get the last one. So I get last licks. The last question that we have is CPCUs are constant researchers and studiers and self-improvement types, as well as improving the society and the industry around us. So the last question is, what are you currently, and this doesn't necessarily have to be academic, but what are you currently studying? Or if you want to go in a little bit of a different direction, what are you reading and or watching from, either a self-improvement standpoint or just purely as a entertainment kind of thing?
So I'm going to tell you that I haven't had a whole lot of time to do some of the things that I've wanted to do this year. It's been a little bit busy. But I work on a program called the Ultimate Account Manager with Sharon Koches, and we are constantly updating that program for insurance account managers and the importance of the role. And one of the big things right now is how all of the emerging issues impact insurance, right? Even the staffing issues, if you think about it, is impacting the industry, and not just from a hiring standpoint, but it's impacting because of auto insurance, because consumers or organizations are hiring anybody, right? So we're constantly doing that and keeping up to date and researching that. I still read a lot of the publications. I did want to finish my ARM by year end, but that's not going to happen this year. So I will get that done early next year. And then one of the things, and it's interesting, I had a session yesterday with one of my mentees, or like I say to all of my mentees, it's mentee, mentor, and back the other way, right? Because I want to learn from them. They can't just learn from me. And so we were talking about what are my next steps. And so I'm starting to focus on my direction for my consulting business, doing more facilitation. I'm still teaching classes. I'm still doing errors and omissions, working with errors and omissions from agencies, still teaching CPCU and the associate in commercial underwriting. But I'm starting to focus really on where I want my business to go and where I want to focus. So stay tuned for that, because this year kind of took a little swing, right? And can't believe that my mom has been here for 2 years now. So, wow. That's, which is wonderful. It's a blessing. But it also adds some challenges to what I do. But I've got some ideas on focusing for the new year. So stay tuned.
That's good. Maybe you can chime in the comments when we're talking to Mike K about New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
And on top of that, that now sets the table. We have to have you back and do like an update and like, well, wait, what happened? Like, suspense is the number one aspect of entertainment in this world. I think you have to keep people wanting more. So we definitely want to have you back to do an update and see where those things are at in terms of you being able to finally pay some attention to it and not necessarily have to CPCU president your face off. So no, that'll be fantastic. All right. Look, thank you so much. We know your time is extremely valuable and that, you're not getting paid for this or anything like that. So this is definitely a labor or a passion of a labor of love, so to speak, and a passion that you're not necessarily doing because you're getting paid for it. So we want to say thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for your leadership in the role as president of the society and helping us kind of navigate some of these really trying times that we've gone through as of late. And I think it's going to make us stronger. I think these were some foundational years where they were difficult and there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed or worked through or just gotten past. And I think we're on the exit. We don't necessarily want to like let up on the gas or anything, but we're definitely on the upswing, which is a huge credit to you and the presidents that came before you that have also helped kind of, skipper the ship in that direction. So thank you for that as well. And again, we're looking forward to see what your next chapter looks like, because, it's all uphill from here.
Well, I just want to say thank you. And thank you for all that you all do, because you all have put so much time and effort into the CPCU Society and into the future of our industry. So I'm very grateful for that, all the time and effort. I'm excited about the new Leadership Council. And, we just, there's a lot of work. There's no question about it. But with all of the passion that everyone brings to the table, we will get this done. And like any good business plan, we're going to have to tweak it. We're going to have to monitor it and make changes. Nothing's perfect going in, but I'm excited because I think we have a great future. And I really think that we've set us up for the future of our industry and the future of the society for that succession. And that's the thing that our industry has not done a good job at in the past. And I think that was absolutely necessary to bring us forward. And I just applaud all of the work that Leadership Council has done, our staff has done, the chapters have done an amazing job, and the interest groups. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Always a selfless person too, which is an extremely admirable quality. I love that. Absolutely love that. Heather, Precious, final comments, anything that you wanted to say before we wrap it up here?
No, it's been fantastic, because I feel like we know our CPCU Society president so well. And that was your goal, Sharon. Yeah. I mean, you talked about it. You wanted people to know you, and you sit in a role that has a little bit of a mystique inside the society, and people don't really understand it. Like, what exactly does this president do? And I think that you ran into it saying, everybody's going to know exactly what I'm doing. And I want to bring everyone else along the journey with me. And that's why you have so many volunteers out there who are willing to run through the brick walls, is because you've done exactly that. So my thanks to you. I absolutely love it. I cannot wait to hear what happens with your next chapter in your life. That's so exciting as well. And Precious, last words.
Woohoo! Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you just feels, insufficient to just really, express our appreciation and gratitude for being able to navigate this space again with grace. That's just a word that just keeps coming to mind. We've not been without controversy. This won't be the first. This was not the first. Won't be the last. Mm-hmm. At least we're not fighting over good standing badges. Oh, I'm sorry. Too soon. Okay. But no, in all seriousness, though, it is a pleasure to have gotten to know you, to consider you a friend, your accessibility and just your genuine, desire, like Matt said, the selflessness, it hasn't gone unnoticed and is greatly appreciated. So we're excited to stay tuned because we know that great things are still underway. And so, yeah, I mean, you're a friend of the show. You're always going to be a fixture, as long as you're able. And so we know that, and we appreciate that. And thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you all. I so appreciate your kind words.
With that, that's the end of another episode. Reminder, get us to 200 subs. We're at 100. We need to be at 200 subs. Sub right now. Sub. Another one in the books. That's CPCU Champion Hour for this week. Thank you, champions. Peace.
I think these videos are brilliant, and I'm sure you will like them too. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification bell.